All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew, and I do want to apologize. I know it's been over a month since I've posted an episode. The cave has actually relocated again. I relocated from Madisonville, Kentucky, back to my hometown of Princeton, Kentucky, and I gotta say, it is great to be back home. I was going to do an episode last week, but I actually went down to Florida to see my dad and my stepmother, and I just got back Saturday night. And you know what? I thought I'd go ahead and do another episode and continue on with the life of Bray Wyatt. But before I begin, the next Naw wrestling event will be Saturday night, May the 2nd, at the Nebo Community Center in Nebo, Kentucky. Doors will open at 6 p.m. The show will start at 7 p.m. General admission is $8 for anybody ages 13 and up. For anyone that is ages 0 to 5, it'll be free. And anybody from ages 6 to 12 will be $5. Concessions will be available. And I promise, folks, you will not be disappointed. And also, it is the annual CNS Invitational. They started that. Let's see, I've been affiliated with them since 2024, so this would actually be the third one. And it's an awesome event. And if you all can make it out, definitely go see it. All right, so the last episode we left off with the tag team of Bray Wyatt and Woken Matt Hardy when they were the Deleter of Worlds, but they creative had since disbanded the team. So we're going to move on. So in April of 2019, actually, let me go ahead and make this disclaimer. I will still, I will be reading from Wikipedia.org, but I will throw in my 2 cents as we move along, like I have with other episodes. All right, so in April 2019, ominous vignettes began airing across WWE programming, depicting a sinister buzzard puppet, a witch doll, and other toys. Later that month, Wyatt began to appear in pre recorded segments as the host of a surreal children's program known as the Firefly Funhouse. He was sporting different hair and a shorter beard with a leaner physique. The segments featured the aforementioned puppets called Mercy the Buzzard, a reference to Waylon Mercy, who was an inspiration for Wyatt's previous gimmick, and Abby the Witch with Ramblin' Rabbit and Huskus the Pig Boy. Oh me. And the latter was a reference to Wyatt's previous gimmick of Husky Harris back when he was in the Nexus, as well as one puppet for Mr. McMahon that occasionally appeared. During the initial segment, Wyatt destroyed a cardboard cutout of his old self with a chainsaw, cheerily telling viewers all they had to do for him to light the way was to, quote, let him in. The Firefly Funhouse segments became more sinister, with one featuring Wyatt painting a picture to, quote, express his suppressed feelings, which was a painting of the Wyatt family compound being burned with Sister Abigail inside, which referenced his WrestleMania 33 feud with Randy Orton. Another featured him having a picnic with expressionless kids, while another revealed that Wyatt was able to control his darkness. He then appeared in a more sinister clothing and a demonic mask resembling an evil clown, a persona he called the Fiend that was here, quote, to protect us. Okay, so I'm going to say this, folks. I saw some of these clips on YouTube after WrestleMania of that year in 2019. So that would have been WrestleMania 35. I hate to say it, I pretty much checked out, mainly because I was just really disappointed with the programming and everything. And I really thought they should have been pushing Braun Strowman as champion, and there were just some other things, and I basically checked out at this point. But I kind of kept in touch through ewrestlingnews.com and some other wrestling news websites, and then like I said, I would check out video clips on YouTube and stuff. But I thought this was a very interesting gimmick because he basically took Mr. Rogers, and if for you younger fans, look up on YouTube Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Long story short, it was a children's show that was on PBS, and he had all these puppets and stuff and all that. It was actually a pretty good program, and I got to say, rest in peace, Mr. Rogers. Getting back to some of these puppets, getting referring to Mercy the Buzzard, you know, Bray Wyatt used to say follow the buzzards a lot in his promos, especially when he first came to the main roster. And referencing Waylon Mercy. So a lot of you young fans won't know who Waylon Mercy is. He was portrayed by Dan Spivey, or Dangerous Dan Spivey. Hands down, one of the toughest wrestlers in the business. If you get a chance, go to YouTube and look up Waylon Mercy, and you will see a lot of similarities with him and Bray Wyatt. Waylon Mercy had those Hawaiian floral shirts that he would wear to the ring just as his entrance gear, and he had those similar white pants like Bray Wyatt would wear when he first started on the main roster. And Waylon Mercy's entrance music, it was very ominous feeling, I guess you could say. And there would be piano, it'd basically be piano music um, as his entrance music. And you notice that with Bray Wyatt's original theme, how the piano is playing in the background to um, his original theme song and stuff. Abby the Witch, obviously referencing Sister Abigail, and not too sure about Ramblin' Rabbit, but Huskus the Pig. I got to admit that was a very comical looking puppet. I remember him having that sweatband across the head and had all this. I don't know if it was mud or or chocolate all around his mouth or whatever. But anyways, but yeah, Wyatt definitely was sporting a different hairstyle and stuff, and he's always been a big guy, but he definitely looked like he had been training really hard. So it kind of seems like maybe they're going to try to do something right this time with him because they have failed him miserably in regards to a push and all that. And I remember seeing that mask, and my gosh, uh, now I know there are a lot of people out there that have a fear of clowns and all that, and I totally understand that. But this mask scared the crap out of me. I ain't gonna lie. All right, so moving forward on the July 15th episode of Raw, Wyatt, dressed up as the Fiend, attacked Finn Balor and hit him with the Sister Abigail, reestablishing himself as a heel. Those two would have a match at SummerSlam on August the 11th, and basically it was a squash match. The Fiend would defeat Finn Balor. Over the next several weeks, the Fiend attacked several Hall of Famers and legends, including Kurt Angle, Jerry Lawler, Kane, and Mick Foley. And ironically, he would adopt Foley's finishing maneuver, the mandible claw, when um, that's a that's a pretty good way to start establishing yourself as a dominant heel. He then started feuding with Universal Champion Seth Rollins, and this would start at the September 15th Clash of Champions pay per view, and he would attack Seth Rollins. And then they would have a match at the Hell in a Cell pay per view on October the 6th. And this was a Hell in a Cell match. But this is where it was a real head scratcher. The match ended in referee stoppage after the Fiend was buried under several weapons and was hit with a sledgehammer by Rollins. Okay, there's something else that's not mentioned. The arena was dark and it was lit up with red lights all over the place, very similar to when Kane debuted in 1997 and he would attack various wrestlers to get The Undertaker to face him and stuff. And there was only one match at that time, which was the 97 Survivor Series, when Kane and Mankind wrestled in a match and the arena was dark and then it had red lights around the ring and outside the ring. I hate to say this, it didn't work then for a match. I don't know why they thought 22 years later it would work this time, but I'm not in charge of creative, but I've got to quote my best friend, and I hope he's listening to this. It didn't make sense. The other thing is, in the history of Hell in a Cell matches, there has never been a referee stoppage because of somebody being buried under several weapons and then being hit with a sledgehammer. To my recollection, it was just deemed a no contest. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it was officially labeled as. I'm just speculating on this, but I think because they wanted to keep the character strong, that's probably why it ended like that instead of Rollins just, getting the pin and winning the match. That's just speculation. Everybody has their own opinion. I just thought it was a stupid idea. And then again, maybe they did this to potentially not drag out the storyline, but to further the storyline. Despite the match ending the way it did, the Fiend rose as officials checked on him to chase down Rollins. And again, he incapacitated Rollins with the mandible claw. The finish was noteworthy for the response from the fans in attendance who booed very loudly and chanted negatively. All right, so not too long after this, he was drafted to the SmackDown brand during the 2019 draft. The Fiend would get a rematch against Rollins at the October 31st Crown Jewel pay-per-view in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and he would win the Universal Championship. Okay, so they have one little hiccup with this gimmick, but they do rectify it. So okay, so WWE was capable of fixing a screw up. The title was gosh, I can't even speak. Sorry, folks. Was subsequently transferred to SmackDown due to Wyatt being a member of the brand. After his title victory, Wyatt introduced two new belt designs. The first one, which his Firefly Funhouse character held, was a blue strap version to signify its move to SmackDown, while the other was a custom belt for The Fiend. Now, I think it's cool that they brought back a custom themed belt for the character. It made sense. I mean, Austin had his Smoking Skull belt. Rock had one, I believe, with the Brahma Bull on there. Cena with the spinner belt. Edge had the big rated R in the center. So I think that's pretty cool that they brought that back. The latter design featured his face in the place of the center plate and on a black and red worn leather strap, as well as his phrases hurt, heal, and let me in on the strap. The word me being represented by the Fiend's face. Oh, there was one other custom belt I forgot. Daniel Bryan, when he had a very short heel run in 2018 to 2019, his was his belt was the strap was made out of compost and stuff because he's into that um, he was green and vegan and stuff and all that. Um, Speaking of Daniel Bryan, he and Bray Wyatt would square off at the November 24th Survivor Series. Bray Wyatt would get the win. Bryan would accept a rematch on the following SmackDown. The Fiend attacked Bryan and ripped out his hair. Hmm. Like I said, folks, I didn't see that, but it's a good little start to keep a feud going. Bryan was absent the following week. Wyatt started a short feud with The Miz, which culminated in a non-title match at TLC Tables, Ladders, and Chairs on December 15th, where Wyatt, wrestling for the first time as his Firefly Funhouse character, defeated The Miz. Okay, so this is another instance where it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to have your champion of the SmackDown brand on a pay per view, even though it wouldn't have been against Daniel Bryan, why not? Why not go ahead and have him defend the title against The Miz? I mean, yes, it'd be a one off match, but if you have your champion on a pay per view, let him defend the title. Um, there was one other pay per view back in the Golden Era. It was SummerSlam '89. It was the opening match, actually. It was a tag team match. The defending champions, the Brainbusters, consisting of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, defeated the Hart Foundation. And I never could rack my head over why they didn't make it a title match. But anyways, that it just didn't make any sense. I mean, your champions should defend the belts at a pay per view, but that was WWE's decision. So after that match, Bryan had a buzz cut and a short beard, made his return and attacked Wyatt, and then they had another match at the Royal Rumble on January 26th, 2020, and it was in a strap match, and The Fiend would once again defeat Daniel Bryan, and that would end their feud. On the Actually, let before I continue on, me personally, I think those two could have headlined to WrestleMania. I mean, that's just my opinion. Um, Bray Wyatt, for a big guy, could move and work really good. Daniel Bryan could work with anybody. I really think that should have been a WrestleMania match, but that's neither here nor there. On the February 7th episode of SmackDown, Hall of Famer Goldberg challenged The Fiend for the Universal Championship during an on screen interview, which was scheduled for the Super Showdown event on February 27th. And Bray Wyatt did accept the challenge. And this was another head scratcher, and this is again where WWE dropped the ball. So I watched the match on YouTube that Goldberg and Wyatt had at Super Showdown. And I'm not knocking Goldberg by any means. I was a fan of his back during the Monday Night Wars, and he was very dominant force, and he was pushed to the moon. But I don't agree with the fact where Wyatt had to drop the belt to Goldberg, and it ended his reign at 118 days. I mean, you spent this time building the Fiend up as this dominant heel, and he gets beat within 5 minutes. I mean, in a nutshell, it was a few spears, a jackhammer. I know Bray Wyatt hit Goldberg with the mandible claw, and um, Wyatt had a little bit of offense, but not very much. I thought it was a really crappy thing for them to do. The following night on SmackDown, The Fiend confronted a returning John Cena and challenged him to a match at WrestleMania 36, which Cena accepted, and it was going to be a rematch from the 2014 WrestleMania 30. So this was actually the first year they started the night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. And the match they had was not a traditional wrestling match. The two faced off in a Firefly Funhouse match, and it was one of those cinema style matches. And at this time, COVID had come to town, and basically, in a nutshell, the lockdown prevented live attendance from the audience and everything else. They were basically doing shows from basically where they do the shows for NXT and all that. But I will say this: the Firefly Funhouse match, folks. If you have not seen it, go look it up on YouTube. It was actually a very interesting match. They had had a lot of pretty cool aspects to it, and the Fiend ultimately defeated Cena in the end. But a couple of highlights of it was they had some of the puppets on commentary, and one of them was the Vince McMahon puppet. And something happened during the match I don't remember, and forgive me for my use of language. I've been working on not using as much profanity, but the Vince McMahon puppet at one point in the match, while he's on at the commentator's desk, he says, "That's good shit." I know it's weird to think that's funny, but anyways, um, on the April 10 episode of SmackDown, Wyatt would challenge the new Universal Champion Braun Strowman, who coincidentally Braun Strowman won the title at WrestleMania by defeating Goldberg. Okay, again, it didn't make any sense. This isn't the first time WWE's given Goldberg a win at a pay per view just to lose it at a WrestleMania. The last time that happened was back in 2017 when he defeated Kevin Owens at, I can't remember if it was Fastlane or it might have been Elimination Chamber. But anyways, it was the pay-per-view right before WrestleMania, and then Goldberg went on to face Brock Lesnar, and Lesnar defeated him. I mean, it just didn't make sense to hot potato the belt like this. If they were gonna eventually go this direction, why not keep the title on Bray and let him defend it against Braun Strowman and them have a WrestleMania match? That it just didn't make any sense. So, anyways, they had a match at Money in the Bank on May the 10th. Um, and Bray Wyatt would again dress up as the Firefly Funhouse character. Bray Wyatt would lose the match. Um, he returned in a Firefly Funhouse segment on the June 19th episode of SmackDown to confront Strowman, reintroducing his original Eater of Worlds gimmick and reinstating their rivalry. At this point, Bray Wyatt's like the modern day Mick Foley because, back in the 90s, Mick Foley was Mankind, Cactus Jack, and the infamous Dude Love. So Bray Wyatt has officially, in my opinion, at this point, became the new the modern day Mick Foley, and nothing against that. I think it's pretty cool. Um, on July 19th, at the let's see, it was the Extreme Rules paper. It was called the Horror Show at Extreme Rules. Wyatt defeated Strowman in a non-title cinematic match called the Wyatt Swamp Fight. Um, I I did not see this match, so I really can't comment much on it. But again, if it's a pay per view and it's a match involving your champion, the belt should be on the line. Um, on the July 31st episode of SmackDown, The Fiend would attack Alexa Bliss, who Strowman had an affection for. 2 weeks later, after Strowman attacked Bliss with a gorilla press to antagonize The Fiend, the lights went out and The Fiend appeared in the ring in Strowman's place, seemingly to help Bliss. Strowman then appeared on the big screen where he and The Fiend were laughing together. Okay, this is getting really confusing. I didn't see any of this, so I'm a little out of the loop. But I do remember this. At SummerSlam on August 23rd, The Fiend defeated Strowman to win the Universal Championship for the second time. After the match, they were both attacked by a returning Roman Reigns. And then at Payback, The Fiend defended the title against Strowman and Reigns in a triple threat match, which he lost after Reigns pinned Strowman to win the title, thus ending his second reign at 7 days. Oh my gosh. I totally forgot that they had another pay per view 7 days after SummerSlam. I, for some reason, thought it was the following month. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm sure there's been some others, but the only other, uh, gosh, the last time I remember someone winning the championship and losing it within a week, let's see, the first one that I can remember was The Undertaker when, after he defeated Hogan at the 91 Survivor Series, a week later they had that special called This Tuesday in Texas, and then Hogan wound up defeating The Undertaker and regained the championship. I know there's been some others, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But anyways, whenever Reigns won the belt, this is what started his epic title reign, and honestly, it was probably the best move for Roman's career because he became one of the most over heels in the business, and he had a very good run with the championship. Um, in September, Wyatt's ring name was officially shortened to The Fiend, indicating a complete transition into what was formerly perceived to be Wyatt's alter ego. The Fiend returned on the October 2nd episode of SmackDown and attacked Kevin Owens. After attacking Owens, he extended his hand to Alexa Bliss, which she took and smirked as they disappeared. The Fiend had his first match on SmackDown the following week, defeating Owens. As part of the 2020 draft in October, The Fiend was drafted to the Raw brand, and he would soon reignite his old feud with Randy Orton at the TLC Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view on December 20th. Orton defeated The Fiend in a Firefly Inferno match before setting his body on fire. So I didn't see the match, but I remember reading about this, and my first thought was, "What the heck?" Sorry, y'all, that's my dog in the background. If you heard her shaking, and you could hear her tags rattling. I'm from a safety aspect. I mean, I'm sure they dotted all their I's and crossed their T's, but me personally, I wouldn't put any superstar, whether you're an enhancement talent or you're a main event superstar, I would not put anybody in a position to where their whole body had to be set on fire. Um, but um, at Fastlane on March 21st, 2021. So I mean, we're talking a 3 month absence. The Fiend returned as a tweener, sporting the charred skin and singed clothes. He attacked Orton with his sister Abigail during his intergender match with Alexa Bliss, allowing Bliss to win by pinfall. So y'all may not remember, but December 2020, one of Wyatt's good friends, Brody Lee, or you all will remember as Luke Harper from the Wyatt family, he suddenly passed away. And rumor had it was that he had taken some time off because of, he had just lost one of his really good friends. I don't know if that's the truth, but that's just, rumor and innuendo. Um, Speaking of Brody Lee, when AEW had that tribute show on Dynamite, I ain't gonna lie, folks, I cried when I saw that. I bawled my eyes out during a good chunk of the show, and but anyways, that's you know Brody was a great wrestler, and just it was just too young, man. But so the Fiend and Orton would have a match at WrestleMania 37, and it was on the second night on April the 11th. The Fiend returned and regenerated back to his pre-burned look. However, Alexa Bliss appeared during his match, and black liquid began to pour down her face, distracting the Fiend and allowing Orton to win with the RKO. Now, I will say this: during the entrance, I remember Alexa. There was this big Jack in the Box, and right next to the ring, and Alexa Bliss was turning the lever, and then you hear the music for the Jack in the Box in the background, and then all of a sudden out pops the Fiend. I thought that was a pretty iconic entrance for him. Um, After a brief stare down between the Fiend and Bliss, the lights went out and the pair disappeared. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe this was the pay per view whenever they started allowing fans to come back for live attendance. On the following episode of Raw, Bliss declared that she no longer needed him, and Wyatt's cheery Firefly Funhouse persona returned in a Firefly Funhouse segment, stating that he was looking forward to a fresh start. This marked Wyatt's final appearance in this stint with the WWE, as he was released on July 31st, ending his 12-year tenure with the company. I remember reading this, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Braun Strowman was released as well at this time. Um, like I said, they dropped the ball with this guy so many times, and it's like, you know, how much more can you ruin somebody's wrestling career? I mean, it just baffled me. Um, I hated it because I was a big fan of his work. I really thought he should have had more title runs than what he had. I really thought that, and not only more title runs, but longer title runs at that. Um, well, folks, I think we're gonna end the episode on that note. We will return and finish up on the life of, probably finish up on the life of Bray Wyatt on the next episode. Again, I want to thank all of the listeners, fans, followers, subscribers. I appreciate your support. I will have this uploaded um, as soon as possible. It will be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Patreon. If you would be interested in donating to Grizzly's Cave, or if you would be interested in sponsoring Grizzly's Cave, you can reach out to me at grizzliescave@yahoo.com. And for Grizzly's Cave, this is Grizzly Andrew saying take care and God bless.